The seventh story in the Seventh Stories book is the sales teaching story. It's the story we use to untangle, to get through complex decision processes, helping our salespeople if we're the sales manager, and helping our client if they need to manage the stakeholder committee. A few weeks ago, I met with my former manager from when I was working for a large German engineering company. We'll call him Rob because he's a modest guy. I wanted to ask him about two deals that were quite famous when I was working at that company. They'd happened before I was there. The first deal occurred around the turn of this century, and it was at the time when telecommunications networks were transforming from analog networks to digital. The main supplier in Australia, the main telecommunications supplier, put out a very large tender, and Rob was the business development manager, and he thought that his company had lost the deal. But there was an audit of the tender results, and the company reissued the tender, and there was a second chance. But Rob had been designated as the new country manager, the new country CEO, and as part of that development, he was required to attend a business school to get a Master of Business Administration, an MBA. And so he was concerned that he wouldn't be able to do both things. So he went to the business school and said, look, this is going to take many months of effort. I don't think I can do the MBA and complete this tender. And the business school had a suggestion. They said, look, this is a residential business school. Why don't you bring your tender team to the business school? We've got room and you can attend your classes and still respond to the tender. So he did. They rented 30 rooms at the business school and meeting rooms, breakout rooms, flew in people from Germany and all over the world for several months to respond to the tender. And attending business school during the day, his tutorials, and then in the gaps and in the evenings working on the tender. And he even brought business modeling issues into his class for discussion. They ended up responding to that tender with two responses. The first was a conforming bid that responded exactly as the client had asked. And the second one was a different business model where the project costs were separated from the equipment costs, and they were able to show very low equipment costs. And they won the deal. $1.6 billion signing value, a deal that was worth many billions of dollars over the years. And as an interesting aside, when the telecoms company placed their first order, the headquarters in Germany rejected the order because they'd never seen anything configured that way for pricing, and the outgoing CEO had to fly to Germany and explain the deal more carefully. A few years later, around the mid-2000s, there was a second big deal on the table, and this was for a mobile network. And Rob's company, my company, had not been successful in mobile networks in Australia at all, and there was a very high level of anxiety and desire to win that tender. And they got down to the last two, really bidding, pushing the price extremely low. This was a new mobile network for a new entrant in the Australian market. And they got down, they were selected as the winning bidder, and the global CEO flew from Germany to be in Australia to help work through the final contract negotiations. And Rob was working one evening, looking at the contract, and he noticed that the contracting entity, the company name, was different from the main trading name of the company that they were going to build the network for. And so he asked about that, and he was told, yes, it's a separate company. And it turns out that company didn't have any assets, but the deal was a vendor finance deal. So it was required that the supply company would absorb the costs of building the network until there was traffic on the network. Rob had a bad feeling about that. Even though he had his CEO there, he had approval to sign that deal, he wasn't happy with that situation, and he decided to not sign the deal, a deal that was worth just under $1 billion. And so the competitor company came in, they took exactly the same deal that was on offer to our company, and the new entrant telecoms company went bankrupt, and $980 million deal was lost. That money was lost, and the country executive team that won that deal for the competitor company lost their jobs. two pretty interesting deals. You know, I asked Rob, after he talked to me about those deals, I asked him, do you think that you could have rejected the second deal if you hadn't won the first deal? And he's an intelligent, careful thinker, and he was quiet for a minute or so, and then he said, you know, I can't answer. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. There are many lessons that you could draw from these two stories. There are many ways to use those stories to help people close complex deals. But one of the most interesting ones, I think, is how our decision-making and our ethics are quite situational. And the ability to step away from a situation when you're deep in complex negotiations, that's not easy. And this kind of story can help you. So that's the sales teaching story. We use that to help teach our salespeople how to navigate complex situations and our clients how to help get the decision made within their organization. There's really only two ways that you can learn these kinds of complex large deals. One is to make mistakes doing those deals yourself, and the second way is to learn from the stories of other people like Rob. You can tell that story yourself. You can tell that story to your own salespeople and your own clients. That's the beautiful thing about stories. We have the ability to learn and gain experience through stories that we would otherwise have to learn through painful experience. That's the sales teaching story. I wish you well. I'm Mike Adams.